Harrison Graham and Chase Sr., a.k.a. the content daddies here at Chat Sports, ready to break down 10 potential replacements for Ryan Day at Ohio State if he leaves. Before you freak out in the comments, there's no crazy report. There's no, hardcore reports that he's going to leave Ohio State for the NFL, but there's some chatter, some deep rumors that, hey, he could be intrigued for the National Football League. So let's explore it, and then we'll take a look at 10 potential replacements for the Buckeyes if it happens. Again, big if there, obviously. I mentioned some chatter that Day could leave for the NFL. I think the Bears would be a job that could make sense since obviously Justin Fields is their young quarterback. And look, Ohio State had a good year but didn't win the Big Ten. Maybe he feels, okay, if the NFL comes calling, this could be an opportunity. Although it's funny how some of these programs, they have down years. He still goes 11-2, Chase, and wins a Rose Bowl, an epic Rose Bowl, by the way. Seems unlikely, but weirder things have happened. I mean, I could see NFL teams calling for Ryan Day.
I don't see why you wouldn't. This guy's offense every single year is a juggernaut, and he's really developed quarterbacks to the point where they're Heisman Trophy finalists, candidates, and in the running to win that award every year. And it seems as though you turn on the TV, and every time Ohio State is playing, they're scoring 30, 40 points per game. And that goes everything in line with where the NFL game is trending right now. So Ryan Day, as an NFL head coach, I think it'd work well because of his offensive scheme, his adaptability, his development of quarterbacks, and he previously coached in the NFL. He was a quarterback coach under Chip Kelly with the Philadelphia Eagles, same position with the San Francisco 49ers as well. He's got a cushy job at Ohio State making $7.5 million per year, but sometimes people who are at the best of their craft are seeking challenges, and maybe he's not challenged by the college game anymore.
And you mentioned development of quarterbacks. I would argue what he did with C.J. Stroud this year might be his best. C.J. Stroud looked like a guy that should have been benched early in the year.
Biggest in-season jump among any quarterback I've really seen recently.
By the end of the year, he was maybe the best quarterback in the country. Outside
the
of
Rose
maybe
Bowl
Bryce
throws that he was making, he was fitting footballs into keyholes. Producer Jack just let out that's what we were all doing when he was dropping those dimes to Smith-Njigba.
So we're Buckeye fans on that one. And by the way, that's without the top two, Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson, who are preparing for the NFL. Ryan Day is a hell of a coach. The question is, will he leave Ohio State? Type 1 for yes, type 2 for no. I don't think so, but I do think NFL teams will be interested in him from here on out. Be prepared as an Ohio State fan. Ryan Day is a guy that teams will come calling for because his offense is so innovative, and that is what the NFL is looking for. This will be the pinned comment on today's video, so answer it, and then after the YouTube ad break, we'll get into 10 potential replacements. All right, 10 replacements for Ryan Day if he leaves Ohio State again. Big if. We have to include him. Urban Meyer, who got fired from the Jags. I don't even think Ohio State would do this, man. I'm putting him on here. I think his image is so down the drain at this point. I think he's done coaching.
Yeah, I mean, look, he still likes the area because he was at that bar locally after that game against the Cincinnati Bengals, and we know what happened there. But look, in all seriousness, you bring back a legend. You're late in the process if Ryan Day does leave, so some of the best candidates, you don't have access to them. For a couple of years, Urban Meyer, I wouldn't.
Don't do it.
Yeah.
Don't do it. I would do this. I'd go all in on this. I'd have him higher, but, Dabo seems to love Clemson. Why not, man? I mean, we've talked about it. You lose your OC, you lose your DC, you lose your athletic director, and you have your worst recruiting class in 5 years. If you're ever going to leave, it seems like now is the time.
To a soaring brand that's only getting better, seemingly.
And look, Clemson has become a blue blood, but it ain't no Ohio State. Let's make that very, very clear. How about Marcus Freeman? And I also think there's no chance of this, but there was chatter that he was their top target to be defensive coordinator before Notre Dame promoted him. They ended up hiring Jim Knowles from Oklahoma State instead. Any chance they could lure Freeman after one game as Notre Dame's head coach?
No. He talks about culture. He talks about image.
He would look
like
a fraud.
He talks about Notre Dame being his dream job. He ain't leaving after everything that he said, although we've seen it before with other coaches for Ohio State. He's staying at Notre Dame.
How about Mike Vrabel? And this might sound out there. He's a head coach of the Titans.
Went to Ohio State.
They might win the AFC in the regular season. He's a Buckeye, though, and what's a bigger brand, the Ohio State Buckeyes or the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah.
Ohio State.
Look,
and Ohio State can probably pay more, too.
And when you're running a business, it is your job to reach out to the best candidates. So if you're Ohio State and that athletic administration, you're at least making a call for Mike Vrabel, right?
He was also on their staff 2011 through 13 as linebackers coach and then defensive line, so he has coached some in college football. Hey, I'm calling him if Day leaves. He's at least worth a call. How about Jim Knowles, who gets hired as the DC, was a Broyles Award finalist? Could you just promote the guy you just brought in just from a stability standpoint? That seems unlikely, but it could be one of those, like, one-year trial things, kind of like what you were saying with Urban, like, hey, like, you're so late in the process, there's not a ton of, natural candidates out there.
Yeah.
And let's be honest, if Day were to leave, you're keeping Knowles on staff, because if not, you're going to owe him a ton of money for never coached there. So at minimum, he's going to be DC. Does a new head coach want to say, hey, this is your DC no matter what?
I don't know. I mean, after being an offensive program for so long,
be a tough sell.
That's your brand, and I think a big reason why they're able to bring in the offensive players that they do are because they're an offensive school, right?
Yeah.
And I think if you shift defensively, you kind of go away from that identity, and then you won't get those same recruits where you're bringing in the top wide receivers on a year-in, year-out basis.
We'll ask you guys, if Ryan Day leaves, should they promote Jim Knowles? Y for yes, N for no. I think the answer is no. But it wouldn't surprise me
By the
if
way,
they at least interviewed
would
him.
you have liked to have seen Ohio State against Georgia instead of Michigan against Georgia in hindsight? With Smith-Njigba going off?
Probably, yes.
Yeah, better offense?
Yeah. I think
Just came to my brain.
I think it would have been a better matchup.
The takes are always brewing.
Michigan ended up just being a worse Georgia.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what it came down to. Top 5 we go. How about Bill O'Brien? You want to stay offense? Well, Bill O'Brien can do just that.
Yeah, I mean, look, in 5 of 6 years with the Houston Texans, the guy won 9 or more games. So he won a lot of games. A lot of people like to rip him because his general managing and head coach tenure with the Houston Texans was disastrous. But Bill O'Brien, the football mind, you're seeing it at Alabama. You saw it with the Houston Texans. You saw that he made Christian Hackenberg a draft pick, and he's one of the worst college quarterbacks of all time who lost to Temple. Goes to show you how good B.O.B. is. Now, if you want to lay down some bets on the national championship game, NFL playoffs, as that season comes down to the wire, maybe even some NBA games and prop bets as well, you can do so thanks to our sportsbook partner, BetUS. All year long, they've been offering this killer 125% deposit bonus. So if you go to chatsports.com/bet, enter the promo code chat125, you get a 125% deposit bonus. So you put in $100, and if you do that using our link in our promo code, you get an additional $125 back. Now, with betting, you're always looking for value. I think taking Alabama on the money line is excellent value, because I don't think Georgia's going to win this game as 3-point favorites. So get some value there. Take Bama on the money line. I think they win their second game over Georgia, because I don't think Georgia and the Dogs have that mental fortitude to take down Roll Tide.
We'll certainly see what happens there. Mark Stoops, what he's done at Kentucky, I don't think can be applauded enough. In fact, I think it's probably one of the most under-talked about thing in the last decade in college football, that Mark Stoops has kind of made Kentucky a top 30 program in the country, and this program was like the Kansas of the SEC for a while. He's been tremendous. It's a big leap to go from Kentucky to Ohio State, but again, you get this late in the process. I mean, what candidates are you really dealing with? I think he's at least somebody worth interviewing.
Yeah, it's the similar point that I made earlier. Like, you pivot from being an offensive powerhouse to then going defense, and you're already in a defensive-heavy conference, and I think being offensive-oriented has helped you dominate that conference.
Matt Campbell, I think, would be a strong candidate. Regional, he's lost some of that shine, as we've talked about this year with Ohio State not playing, or with Iowa State not winning as many games, but they were still very competitive this year. I think he'd be pretty intrigued if the Buckeyes came calling here.
Yeah, you know what you're getting, and that's consistency with Matt Campbell. He's been able to do that. Now, he wouldn't be as sexy as a guy like Lane Kiffin, who personally for me would be my number one candidate for Ohio State if Ryan Day were to go to the NFL level over Luke Fickell. Lane Kiffin and his offensive mastermind, him being the guru that he is at Ohio State, he's going to continue to bring in great quarterbacks. He's going to develop them. He's going to do a good job along the offensive line. You're still going to be great at wide receiver, and defensively with what Ole Miss was able to do. Yes, they hired DJ Durkin, who is now the DC at Texas A&M.
Yep.
Him being able to identify good DCs would be massive for Ohio State because they were lacking in that department prior to this year.
Well, and you could just keep Jim Knowles, who's a good defensive coordinator.
Right.
Luke Fickell, could they right that wrong? I mean, many people believe Ohio State kind of screwed Fickell several years ago when he was the interim head coach and went in a different direction. I think he'd like the opportunity to be the Buckeyes head coach again one day. So if it opens up, I mean, you got to think he's at or near the top of the list if Ryan Day were to go to the NFL. So those are 10 potential replacements. Again, big if. I expect Ryan Day to likely stay at Ohio State, but the NFL will likely come calling. Who will be the Ohio State head coach in 2022? I say Ryan Day, but if not, maybe it's one of those names or someone we're not thinking about. Let us know down in the comments.